Ready? All right, good afternoon, everybody. Today is April 25th. It's 5 o'clock p.m. We're going to get started with the Yuma County Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for April 25th. Call order and verify quorum, please.
AJ Mosqueda,
Present.
Ron Rice,
Present. Present.
Tim Bowers,
Present.
Danny Bryant,
Present.
Matias Rosales,
Present.
Present.
Gary Black, Bobby McDermott, Ron Van Wy.
Here.
Chairman, you do have a quorum.
Thank you. Just please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to go ahead and read a little bit of housekeeping rules before we begin. If you parked in the rear employee gated parking lot, please move your vehicle to the front north parking lot to avoid having your vehicle locked in overnight. Please sign in the sign-in sheet at the table by the rear of the door if you wish to speak. Please state your name and address for the record before speaking at the podium when called upon. Please address the chairman, not the audience or the staff when speaking at the podium. There is a 3-minute timer for those who wish to speak. The chairman may or may not decide to let the speaker continue after the 3-minute mark has been exhausted. If you have handouts to give to the commission, please give them to admin staff to distribute. If you need to show information on the overhead projector, please give them to administration staff to become part of the permanent record. Restrooms and drinking fountains are down the hall behind this meeting room. Feel free to use the facilities as needed. Please no food or beverages other than clear water in the meeting rooms. Thank you. Item number 3, approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission regular minutes for March 28th, 2023.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Okay, minutes approved. Item number 4, special use permit case number 2301. This will be presented by Hanson.
Commissioner Rosales,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to recuse myself from item number 4, please.
Okay. Noted. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the Commission, Anson Lahosset, Senior Planner, presenting Special Use Permit Case 2301. Barry Olson, Agent for Sidco Properties, LLC, requests a special use permit to allow the handling and storage of hazardous waste on a parcel zoned heavy industrial 1 acre minimum. The parcel is located within the Gila Valley planning area, and the intent is to handle and store hazardous waste. This is the vicinity and zoning map showing the subject parcel in crosshatch. Parcel 14 to the north is zone rural area 20 acre minimum and is in agricultural production. Parcels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 25, and 26 to the east and southeast are zone light industrial and have industrial businesses like auto repair and dismantling, except Parcel 1, which is improved with 4 manufactured homes. Parcel 51 to the south is zoned HI and has an automobile recycling business. Parcel 52 to the south is zoned LI and is the location of a waste and recycling company. Parcels 47, 48, and 53 to the west are within the City of Yuma jurisdiction. Parcel 47 and 48 are zoned L-I and are improved with industrial businesses. 53 is zoned B-2 general commercial and is the location of a commercial shopping center. Parcel 49 to the west is zoned HI1 and is the location of a wireless communication facility and junkyard. This is the site plan submitted by the applicant. Outlined in red are the 3 concrete pads that the hazardous waste is proposed to be stored. This is an aerial image of the subject parcel and surrounding area that is east of Avenue 2E and the Yuma Palms Regional Center. This is a closer aerial image of the parcel that is improved with a warehouse and an office that is currently a solid waste transfer facility that is being operated. This is an image looking north at Engler Avenue from the intersection of 13th Street. The subject property is on the left with the warehouse visible. This is an image looking northwest from the same intersection. And this is an image looking northeast from the southwest property corner. This is an aerial image looking south, the subject property. Staff received one letter of opposition from a property owner within the notification area. This was received after the deadline and is not in the staff report. It stated concern over the location of the facility and that their property would be at risk from airborne transmission to crops and contaminated groundwater if the contaminated materials penetrate the concrete slab. The same property owner owns 6 parcels outside of the zoning notification area that are also farmed. The City of Yuma provided extensive questions, comments over the proposal directed to the applicant and staff. A letter of opposition was received after the due date signed by 6 city councilmen, and that was provided to commissioners prior to the meeting. Their concerns were over the location of the proposed use. The United States Bureau of Reclamation stated that they hold an easement on the north side of the property and will require an application for review. Staff recommends approval of special use permit case 2301, subject to the following performance condition. Within 60 days of the Board of Supervisors' approval, all owners or their agents must provide the following: an ARS 12-1134 waiver. And operational conditions: the approval of the special use permit is based on the site plan submitted by the applicant. Any change from the site plan will require approval by the planning director pursuant to section 402.04 of the Yuma County zoning ordinance. The special use permit shall be valid for a period not to exceed 10 years from the date of the approval by the Board of Supervisors. The business will not be open to the public. No vehicle parking for the business is permitted in public right-of-way. And prior to beginning operation, the applicant must install and maintain a sign at the entrance of the facility warning of the hazardous materials. The sign must also provide the emergency contact information. The owner applicant shall maintain and submit copies of all permits and notices from submissions to any federal, state, or local regulatory authority to the Department of Development Services. The owner shall submit a copy of the safety data sheets that were provided to the local emergency planning committee and fire department pursuant to the Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act. The owner operator shall submit a copy of the chemical emergency response plan that was submitted to the local emergency planning committee, shall employ a chief safety professional, and provide a 24-hour emergency contact phone number to the Department of Development Services. The parcel in opposition is highlighted in red, and we do have an ADQ staff member available over the telephone to answer any environmental questions or over the state permit review. With that, Mr. Chairman, that completes staff's presentation. Are there any questions for staff?
I'll go ahead and bring it back to the commissioners. Anyone have any questions for staff or the ADQ representative on hold? No questions? No one? Concerns? No? All right, at this time, we'll open it up to the public and we'll invite the applicant up here and then move forward from there. Thank you.
Good evening, Barry Olson, 101 East 2nd Street, Yuma, Arizona. Realize this is a application that involves quite a bit, and so I have with me our team tonight, which consists of the owner's representative, Chuck Templer. I also have our environmental consultant, James Peck, who assisted the property and obtaining the permit from ADEQ can answer questions as to the technical components, as there are quite a bit of technical components involved with this. We have John Sternitzky from Sternco Engineers, who's a certified fire protection engineer that we've had retained on this project since we started the process. And we also have the technical manager for the facility, Judy Riamito, with us this afternoon or this evening as well. Now, I want to kind of just give a little general overview. One of the things in the staff report that came up, I want to clarify, is the use of the term transfer and storage facility. That's a technical term as to the storage. This is not a permanent storage facility. Basically, what it is now, it's a solid waste transfer facility. Solid waste comes in, it's consolidated with like-kind products, and then it's shipped out to a disposal facility throughout. There's facilities in the Southeast, Texas, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, other states. With respect to hazardous waste, it's my understanding that there is no hazardous waste landfill in the state of Arizona. So presently, what's being consolidated are what are classified as non-hazardous waste. Comes in, and again, is processed and then shipped out. When the storage term is used, it's basically for temporary storage, awaiting transport out of the facility. So I wanted to make that clarification in case there's any fears that there's any long-term storage of either solid waste or hazardous waste at the facility. This facility has been in its present location since 2018. It previously was at a location in Yuma from 2005 to 2018 and operated without an accident. Now, as mentioned by staff, there's an ADEQ representative on the phone. This process to get a hazardous waste permit requires a lengthy and extensive application with ADEQ, which is in coordination with the EPA. We also need the SUP permit. So when we first met, I had advised the client that it would be best to get through the ADEQ EPA process, because if we didn't get through that, there's no use wasting your time. We got through that process, and the permit was issued in September. So after that, we met with staff, went over the project. Staff had made some comments as to what it expected as part of the application. We incorporated those into the application, which is submitted to the county for processing. We tried to address everything that the staff was looking for and what we felt the county would want as part of its review of the special use application. Now, in reviewing the staff report, I noted that the staff had an interesting comment in there. It says the location of waste management facilities should be part of a comprehensive planning process that includes the opportunity for meaningful public participation and public consensus. Now, as part of the ADEQ EPA process, there was public outreach. We were involved in that, and basically there wasn't any opposition to that. It went through, very little community feedback on it, and basically we satisfied the requirements. We've provided that ADEQ permit to staff. It consists of 922 pages, which details, requirements, everything you have to do, site plans, all of the various requirements that go with that. That permit, like the special use permit, is for a period of 10 years. The staff report also defines what a waste transfer operation is, and that's a good definition if you've read the staff report. But one thing I want to point out is that hazardous waste is prevalent throughout Yuma County. The military base, hazardous waste. Our agricultural operations, fertilizers, agricultural chemicals, hazardous waste. Those wastes need to go someplace to be consolidated and transported. To our knowledge, there is no such facility in Yuma County. And that's what we're basically trying to provide at the existing facility, is to have this hazardous waste transfer, consolidation facility to basically get these products and get them transported to the proper locations. Now, in talking to the client, I didn't know this, but hazardous waste, there's a variety of uses. Obviously, some of it is disposed to landfills. There's various types of landfills throughout the United States. Some of it's incinerated. Also, some of it is basically being used and recycled for fuels in the Midwest to operate cement kilns. Didn't know that. So this industry is constantly evolving where they're trying to figure out if any of these waste can be recycled or put to use for something else that's productive, that has an economic benefit. So in Yuma County, we don't have any of that. It just basically, this facility is what we've stated. We've described the economic impact that this will have. I also want to address, I know there's various representatives from the fire departments, Rural Metro, the City of Yuma staff. I know that there's some concerns by the city with the location of this facility in relation to other city facilities, but those of you who've been around Yuma a long time know there is a large petroleum distributorship that is much closer to the city that I'm not hearing the city raise any complaints about. And if there was ever an incident at that facility, it's much closer to the PAC than where our facility's at. So I want to point that out, that if you look at this area, it's a heavy industrial area. Republic Services to the south, we know what it does. There are junkyards and other operations in that area. So this is an ideal area, close to the freeway, close to rail, where the location of a transfer facility makes sense. Also, there's some city water that's available to the property. There's a hydrant. The property also has a city water meter. And then you've seen in the pictures the tank that we've installed for fire suppression systems when the original use was put in. And the city raised 27 points. A lot of those were quite technical that had to do with fire suppression. We went through those with our consultants and have answered those questions to the extent that some of the questions even pertain to what we're doing. Some of the questions weren't even applicable to what our project is, or would be better for county staff to address. So that provides you a general overview of what we're trying to accomplish by this special use permit. And any questions, concerns, I'd be glad to address those at this point. Also, we've got the consultants here who can come up and address it as well, because if you've got any questions, we want to do our best that we can to address those questions.
Any questions?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Looking at the map that is currently up on the projector, my first point, why this is a wonderful place where there are 4 scattered heavy industrial parcels, and the rest of it is light industrial, it's residential. Going through the neighborhood, which I did prior to the last meeting where this item was pulled, it's totally illogical to me that this is a good site for this. Could we put up the slide of the overview of the existing facility, please? Okay. So you're going to cover all of that ground with cement, right?
Well, not all of it. The site plan, there's certain pads that we've identified in the site plan that would be self-contained pads.
Well, then there's going to be hazards for depercolation of product into, regardless of how careful people are, there are always spills, and into the water table, which, as the Bureau of Reclamation pointed out, is shallow. There is, you talk of using a shade structure to prevent heating. I think anybody who's lived in Yuma, Arizona very long knows that the shade structure is nice, but it really doesn't change the temperature very much. I have great concerns about the number of trucks coming through. The picture that showed the road, even though it's just 18 loads a day, what if a truck breaks down in the middle of the road? What if the trucks come in and the site is not open? There are so many concerns, the proximity to the mall. Agriculture is 50% of the economy of Yuma County. Any hint of a hazardous waste will destroy our industry. And it's just, to me, too big a risk for the community to take in this really poor site. If we get a 6-inch rain, that means you're going to have a tremendous amount of water standing all over that parcel. And according to your write-up, that none of it's going to leave the site. So what's going to happen? Materials that are in water, once the water evaporates, then it becomes part of the soil, which is then subject to dust control. We are in a PM10 non-attainment area. This is part of it. I just think it's a horrible place to put it, and I'm interested to hear others address.
Thank you, Ms. McDermott. Mr. Allen, you had a question?
Where does most of your material come from? Yuma County, outside the county?
It's a combination of all over. Like, for instance, in talking to the client, none of the military bases in Arizona, military bases generate quite a, well, those of us around Yuma know there's a history of MCAS. It's with hazardous waste from back in the 50s and 60s. But the military installations in Arizona have no place to send their waste to. This would be such a facility.
Like ag waste as well?
Ag waste, if anything that comes within the parameters of the permit, it could be ag waste, it could be industrial waste, it could be military waste, it could be household waste. You know, there's household hazardous waste that there are numerous programs for, where there's, you know, local, the city, the county, collect all those. Our facility could take those hazardous waste, consolidate them, and transport them to a proper disposal facility.
And what's the average time something's there? Is there a long length of time? Is it short time, or?
That it's there?
Mm-hmm. It's stored there.
It depends, because basically you're trying to get this consolidated into larger containers, like semi-truck containers or totes that are large enough. So it basically depends on how much product you have to fill up, or to get a shippable container, basically a truck, out of there. So like there might be some chemicals that come in and they're a very short duration. There may others that might be there, you know, for a little bit longer duration. But under our permit, we can't go beyond a year.
I'm still confused. So is more of the waste going to be coming from out of the county and not created here in Yuma County that you guys process?
Well, you know, at this point, we haven't started collecting anything, but the anticipation is that, yeah, there'll probably be more coming from outside of Yuma County than generated within Yuma County.
Anyone else have questions? Ms. McDermott?
So, as you accumulate the various types of red, green, and yellow materials in their proper barrels and whatever, they're exposed to the air, they're exposed to spills, there's all of that. So you have all of these packaged up, and then where is the hazardous waste dump that you take them to?
They're all over the place.
What is the intended?
There's no one intended location. It depends on the type of waste. There's locations in Texas. There's locations in the southeast United States. There's locations in the Midwest that take it and use it as fuel. There's locations in Nevada. There's locations in Utah and New Mexico, various states. But Arizona doesn't have a hazardous waste disposal facility.
So what makes this 20-acre parcel the perfect parcel to put this facility in when you're going to send waste all over the United States?
Well, it's close to.
Got to truck it in and truck it out. It's not close to anything.
Well, but here's the one thing, we have hazardous waste going through here every day on trucks.
Sure, I know that. You don't need to,
And
you
so-
know, I'm not looking for that type of a justification.
Yeah, so basically, it comes in, and you know, it's coming from different locations, and you need a place to consolidate it.
And I'm asking you, sir, why this is the site that makes all the bells and whistles work.
Close to rail, it's close to freeway transportation and other highways. It's, you know, Yuma is basically in an, we know where we're at.
So you're telling me coming off of the freeway onto Gist Parkway, going through 3 roundabouts, is going to be the best route that anybody could have to a hazardous waste site?
Well, they get that, or you get off at, there's various points of entry that you could get to this site from off of the freeway.
You know, again, running those types of vehicles through town is
But we
a
already,
problem as well. But
we
it
already,
just, you know, it's illogical to me that this, and looking at your drawing and all of the bare areas, the fact that it's all going to be self-contained waste, which has to, and not leave the area. The soils there, I believe, are shrink swell soils. The Bureau of Reclamation talks about liquefaction if there's an earthquake.
So, Ms. McDermott, we understand your concerns. Okay, sirs, all right?
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Thank
I'm
you.
passionate.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commissioners to the applicant? None. None?
and then
Okay.
I would like to come back after the rest of
Yeah,
the comments to,
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and get the rest of the public's comments, and then we can come back. How are we gonna do this? From the public, is there anyone here that is for this item? Raise your hand, so we can do it in order. All right. So who wants to go ahead and start? Name and address for the record, please.
Chairman, Commissioners, Richard Files, City Attorney, City of Yuma, 1 City Plaza. We have a PowerPoint, and if the commission would bear with us, we'd like for the City of Yuma people, because we're all on the same PowerPoint.
Go ahead, it's on the screen.
I was going to introduce them to you, but I don't want to waste my 3 minutes. I've got 2 points I'd like to make, and if I may, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to draw the commission's attention to the scoring proposal for tonight's hazardous waste special use permit at the site. We go to the first slide, and this is from the county's scoring. This proposal scored 250 points, and that puts it in the range of the 250 to 275 range, but it's at the very bottom of the range. And at the 250 to 275 point scoring range, and I quote from what you're seeing up here, a score falling in this category represents a proposal that likely contains some redeeming qualities, but is lacking in one or more areas. Proposals within this score range typically should be more carefully considered, unquote. More importantly, I think, is when you listen to the testimony tonight concerning this hazardous waste special use permit application, keep in mind that a score of 250 points is just 1 point away from a low score of 249 points, which the slide says that but for that single point, and I quote the slide, a score falling in this category represents a proposal that likely should be denied. The proposal likely does not comply with several adopted land use policies, goals, or objectives, may not have physical or legal access, or may not be compatible with surrounding development, unquote. It is the City of Yuma's position for a hazardous waste handling and storage facility is not compatible with the surrounding development, and this site is the wrong location for this hazardous waste facility. The second point I wanted to make is dispel a myth that often surrounds the ownership of land and land use rights. And that myth is that a landowner is entitled to use the land however the owner sees fit as a matter of right. But that's not true. It's true only within the context of the zoning ordinance. And that's not the case here. In this case, the applicant currently operates a non-hazardous waste processing center on the site and is seeking an additional property right, the right to handle and store hazardous waste under a Yuma County special use permit. And that's a right that I want to emphasize to you the applicant currently does not have. That's a right which, in your best judgment as commissioners, you do not have to recommend that this right be given to the applicant. Not granting additional property rights is not a governmental taking, primarily because the handling and storage of hazardous waste at this site is something that the applicant has never been granted, and is currently, the applicant has no such interest or entitlement in this property. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I want to thank you for your time and consideration of these 2 points as you listen to the testimony. Unless the Commission has any questions, I'd like to hand this over to the city's city engineer, Dave Wastenberg, to talk to you about hazardous materials routes in the city of Yuma and the condition of the roads leading to the proposed hazardous waste site.
Thank you, sir. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Dave Wastenberg, City Engineer for the City of Yuma and 155 West 14th Street. As you can see from the slides, the pavement condition throughout this subdivision area is poor and failing conditions with severe block cracking, alligator cracking, and there are several potholes that the County Public Works has been recently filling out there too. And if you go to the next slide, please. This is looking north from the intersection, so you can see the Citco property. The pavement widths are only 24, 25 foot wide in this area, and were not originally designed for heavy truck traffic. It was originally, I believe, designed more for mobile home parks in the beginning. And so right now, the pavement thickness isn't the right thickness to account for 16 to 18 fully loaded semis carrying 80,000 pounds of hazardous materials. Next slide, please. This is looking kind of southwest towards the Citco property, and you can see there's vehicles in the right-of-way, even though the proposed conditions say there is not to be any vehicles in the right-of-way. So those vehicles are going right to the edge of the pavement, which makes, again, the truck traffic very tight on those narrow roadways. Next slide, please. The city of Yuma does have hazardous material transfer routes, and this is about 1.5 miles off what we recognize as a hazardous material route, and we would not be allowing the trucks on the city road, so they would have to be going back through the county, because otherwise, with the county's policy of all roads are considered, those hazardous materials could be going through your neighborhoods on your residential streets. So with that in mind, we're opposed to at this site because we believe there are better sites that even in the county there are better sites than this site. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Kayla, our fire marshal.
Hello, my name is Kayla Franklin. I'm the fire marshal for the City of Yuma Fire Department, One City Plaza. It's 3 minutes and 8 seconds, so I hope I get an extra 8 seconds. Fire department concerns. Mr. Chairman, commissioners, why is an emergency plan important? I'm going to cite a research paper written by Dr. Elizabeth Buck in conjunction with the Fire Protection Research Foundation. Dr. Buck is also a professional engineer and a certified fire investigator. The title of the paper is Hazardous Waste Treatment, Storage, and Disposal Facility Fire Code Gap Analysis. You will also hear me use the word facility. This word will mean hazardous waste treatment, storage, and disposal facilities. So again, why is an emergency plan important? According to this paper, these types of facilities, quote, have a history of releases, fires, and explosions during the use, handling, and storage of hazardous waste, end quote. No emergency response plan or hazardous materials management plan as required by the fire code adopted by either the county or the state has been provided to the Yuma Fire Department by the applicant so that we can at least plan for a response for an incident to this site. Next slide, please. No safety data sheets have been provided to the Yuma Fire Department, formerly called material safety data sheets, by the applicant to the Yuma Fire Department. These sheets provide important information about chemicals to include their properties, physical, health, and environmental hazards, protective measures, and safety precautions. The only thing we know about the products that CIDCOL will have on site was from the one-page listing that was given to the ADEQ as part of their permit application, containing broad RCRA or EPA classifications such as 30,000 tons annually of ignitables. The RCRA says that ignitable waste can create fires under certain conditions, are spontaneously combustible, or have a flash point of less than 140 degrees Fahrenheit. 140 degrees. These ignitables are proposed to be stored outside, some without shade, in the summertime in Yuma, Arizona. No information has been provided to the Yuma Fire Department on the substance's auto ignition temperatures or how potential ignition sources will be eliminated. No hazardous materials inventory statement compliant with the fire code adopted by either the county or the state has been provided to the Yuma Fire Department. This listing is necessary to provide a proper fire code analysis and ensure the proper storage arrangements, separation distances, compatible and incompatible materials, recommended storage temperatures, maximum quantities, etc. The listing also allows first responders to be aware of specific products present and their associated hazards. Next slide, please. Thank you. Engineering analysis on fire flow. So fire flow means water to fight fires. In regards to the fire flow and hydrant spacing, the commentary for the state's adopted fire code says that target hazards, such as the one being proposed today, which present high challenge fire suppression scenarios, must be specifically evaluated and protected commensurate with the hazards and operational challenges that they present. An engineering analysis of the new hazard being proposed has not been provided to the Yuma Fire Department in regards to the needed fire flow, what an adequate fire flow is, or how that adequate fire flow will even be achieved. In conclusion, I'd like to express my opinion as the fire marshal for the city of Yuma. I believe that the proposed location contains challenges that I don't think can be overcome. It's next to residential areas. It's close to the river. The property abuts farmland. The location is extremely close to the largest and most densely populated commerce center in Yuma County. If something bad happens, the response would be incredibly challenging and dangerous. So thank you for your time today. I've printed each of you a copy of this gap analysis, and I encourage you to take time to read it and understand why there's a disconnect between federal standards and adopted fire code requirements and why disasters at these types of facilities continue to occur.
Thank you.
You guys have any questions for me?
Questions?
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
It's the computer.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Alyssa Linville. I'm the Director of Planning and Neighborhood Services with the City of Yuma, One City Plaza. As planners, we're asked to examine proposed land uses, research them, and provide you recommendations on how these proposed uses will impact the community as a whole. Best planning principles suggest that industrial uses should be properly buffered from incompatible land uses. Communities around the nation have adopted these principles in an effort to protect residential, commercial, and other areas of concern as specific to communities. The proposal before you this afternoon is exactly why planners are asked to review these applications. The image on the screen further illustrates the proposed use and its location within a mixed zoning area, as mentioned by Commissioner McDermott. The area is surrounded by agricultural, residential, commercial, and other light industrial uses. The proposed project, as mentioned, is located just 300 feet from the City of Yuma's jurisdiction, but more importantly is located within close proximity to a large commerce hub within our community, active agricultural land, as well as residential units directly east of this property across Angler Avenue. As I mentioned earlier, communities have adopted best planning practices in terms of industrial zoning designations in order to protect commercial and residential development within the area. As stated in Yuma County zoning ordinance in particular, the purpose of heavy industrial zoning is to protect residential and commercial districts from uses which may create noise, odor, smoke, and other objectionable influences. I would argue that the proposed conditional use permit is in direct conflict with the county's heavy industrial zoning designation. Now, in reviewing the staff report, I did notice several areas of concern, and I would like to go through a couple of those. Staff uses 4 criteria when reviewing a conditional use permit, three of them I would like to highlight. The first criteria is that the proposed development will not materially affect or endanger the public health, safety, or welfare. Staff responds to the statement that the proposed use could materially affect or endanger the public health, safety, and welfare, as some hazardous materials can cause severe health effects to humans, animals, plants, and organisms. As I mentioned earlier, this project is located in close proximity to residential. Just across Engler, there's 4 existing units, but not much further south on 14th Street and 15th Place are another 100 residential units, so definitely within close proximity. The third criteria states the proposed development will not substantially change or materially affect the adjoining property or surrounding area. The response by staff is that the proposed use could substantially impact the area. This is an area that serves the community in a number of ways in terms of housing, commerce, and food supply. And then the fourth criteria states the proposed development will be in harmony with the area in which it is located. Staff's response is that a majority of the existing uses in the surrounding area are industrial in nature. But if we go back to the screen, to this image, it's clear that there's a mix of activities occurring, many of which service our community in a number of ways. So do we believe that the proposed hazardous waste facility is in harmony with the existing residential development, the active agricultural farmland, or one of the primary commercial hubs within our community? Probably not. Next, I would like to just quickly go over the evaluation checklist. The City Attorney, Richard Files, briefly talked about it. The scoring that was received for this project was a score of 250. That's just 1 point above a recommendation for denial. And in reviewing the checklist, there were several considerations that I feel were omitted in determining this score. Category 2, item 4, states that the proposed use is same or similar to the uses within the surrounding area. As I've already mentioned, many of the uses are not in harmony with the proposed use, especially the active farmland and the existing residential development directly adjacent to the proposed area. Category 3, item 9, implies that the project will not result in the loss of prime farmland. However, potential contamination to the groundwater could result in that specifically. And then category 7, item 25, suggests that there is adequate response for emergency vehicles. However, as stated in the staff report, the Sheriff's Office does not fall within the response time of 10 or fewer minutes and should not have therefore received the full awarded points. As I mentioned earlier, planners are tasked with reviewing land uses on a comprehensive level. We have talked about transportation elements, compatibility issues, as well as access to public safety, but I would like to turn it over now to the Director of Utilities so he can talk to you about the potential impacts that this project might have on our groundwater. So thank you, and if there aren't any questions, I'll move on.
Any questions? Not yet.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Chairman, Commission members. Jeremy McCall, Director of Utilities, City of Yuma, 270 West 13th Street. I wanted to talk to you tonight about item previously discussed and kind of touched upon about watershed management and the potential impacts from this site. What's on the screen right now is groundwater wells that are in the vicinity of the proposed site. If you see the subject property in purple and all the wells that are around there, there's 36 wells. Most of them are in yellow. Those are, what do I put them as? Non-exempt. They're industrial, there may be dewatering, there might be exploratory, but there were just wells put in for the purpose of some activity that somebody would do. So they're registered through the Department of Water Resources. The red ones, however, are exempt. They're small wells. They can be used for drinking water sources. Exempt means that they're under 35 GPM, and they are sources for drinking water for some of those community members. One well I want to draw your attention to specifically and how it may impact our community is SG709R. That's a Bureau of Reclamation well. You heard on the staff report and read it that Reclamation has an easement that's abutting to this property. This is kind of what it's highlighting. This well, and specifically this well's conveyance, DPOC number 4, drainage pipe outlet conveyance number 4. That's a series of network of pipes Bureau of Reclamation operates to keep the groundwater manageable, right? Because we all know groundwater can be a problem in certain locations in the community, specifically in the valley. Highlighting this location. Groundwater here is about 12 feet, depending on time of year. That's not very deep at all. This is a picture of the well, D709R, the top. And if you can see towards the bottom, that's the DCOP number 4 as it discharges from the location to the Colorado River. The well itself is operated by Reclamation. It's not currently, but it does come on and off as needed. It can be remote operated by site. They'll come on site, turn it on, or it can be turned into an auto mode. As groundwater fluctuates, they can turn it off. It'll run itself. That's what some of the telemetry on there is. Going back to the yellow line on the bottom image, that is DCP04. That's the outlet conveyance that discharges from that site. And I should have highlighted. I kind of skipped over. Apologies. Is that well is 60 feet away from the subject property. It's immediately adjacent to it. It's not down the road or anything. It's proximal right to it. So going back to the DCP04, that discharges into the wetlands. The project the city, the community, the state had. This is the upper right-hand picture of that corrugated pipe is the discharge into the wetlands, DCP04. It discharges at the beginning of the wetlands. So any product that may end up in the groundwater is going to be discharged into this site, this National Heritage Area, and it'll flow through it. It's not downstream of it. And I just kind of highlighted here some of the partners associated with that project. It was a 2004 project, Project of the Year, Bureau of Reclamation, Bureau of Land Management, City of Yuma, Quechan Tribe, Game and Fish. So just wanted to bring attention and awareness to it that it might not have highlighted the impacts of groundwater and groundwater wells from this site. So with that, I believe Richard or Jay Simonton's going to.
Thank you, Mr.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you,
Any
Mr.
questions?
McCall. Any questions from the commissioners?
Yes, that would also then affect west wetlands as well.
Anything downstream of this site could be impacted. The Colorado River, eventually the wetlands is connected to the river, and all of this area is designated of waters of the U.S., so it's highly regulated. And that's a defining term in the environmental world. So yeah, anything downstream from this point of connection could be impacted.
Oh. Yes, sir.
How deep is that well, and is it perforated all the way down?
Do not know the well construction standards and the depth. We did look at some of the history of it. I want to say it was a 1950s well. I'm going to look at Richard Quest. 1960s well, but I do not know the standards of it. I do know depth of groundwater is 12 feet, depending on year.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Who is?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, council members. Jay Simonton, Acting City Administrator for City of Yuma, One City Plaza. I want to read into the record the letter that you received from the signed by the City Council, just so you could have that in verbal record tonight. Dear Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, thank you for the Yuma County Planning and Zoning staff. Thank you, staff, for bringing this matter to our attention. Special use permit number 23-01 to the City of Yuma. Your outreach and notice has raised the concern of the City Council and as an elected body dedicated to serving the best interests of the City of Yuma, residents, and the Yuma community. We appreciate this opportunity to comment. Yuma County Special Use Permit for the handling of storage of hazardous waste at 2264 East 13th Street by AA Sidco is proposed for the wrong location, far from the city designated hazardous waste trucking route and too near residential and agricultural properties. As a public body charged with the final determination of such matters within city boundaries, the City Council will try to examine every aspect of a proposed hazardous waste facility so close to the Yuma primary commercial center. While the City Council understands ACIDCO currently operates an existing non-hazardous waste transfer operation at this location, hazardous waste are specifically listed by the Environmental Protection Agency and exhibit unique characteristics such as ignitability, corrosiveness, reactivity, and/or toxicity, all of which present individual perils and concerns, but in combination propose potentially even greater hazards so near Yuma's center of commerce. The already issued Department of Environmental Quality hazardous waste permit provides for an estimated 113,000 tons of waste at this facility on an annual basis, but operationally still requires a special use permit from Yuma County. What may not be realized is approximately 4,100 feet away, 3 parcels were recently purchased by Yuma Regional Medical Center for their future growth. The CIDCO site is only 1,260 feet away from the very busy Sam's Club and 1,600 feet away from a 3,000 plus capacity Harkins Theater. Immediately adjacent to productive farmland to the north of the site, as well as close proximity to areas containing more than 100 residential units, the nearest of which are mobile homes approximately 400 feet away. Moreover, there are serious concerns that water capacity at this site, in the event of a fire hazard, substance release, or as well as complete lack of any specific emergency plan by the applicant within the city of Yuma, police or fire departments in any event of an evacuation of a hazard response through the city's mutual aid agreement with Rural Metro becomes necessary. The site is less than 300 feet away from the city of Yuma municipal boundary, and the impact of shutting down the Yuma Palms Mall, even for one day, much less a longer period, similar to the 1997 nitric acid spill, would affect tens of thousands of people. Something that probably missed during the application process with Arizona Department of Environmental Quality is the site's proximity to the Bureau of Reclamation's dewatering well, whose boundary is approximately 6 feet away, which you've heard, from ACIDCO property. As you may be aware, the water table in this area rises to approximately 12 feet. And to protect the farmland, Bureau of Reclamation operates a series of dewatering wells. Dewatering well SGR 709R removes adjacent groundwater from the immediate area, which flows west to the Pacific Avenue through a pipeline within a 30-foot easement boundary bounding the ACIDCO property. The water main then flows to the drainage pump outlet conveyance that runs north to the Pacific Avenue and empties into the side channel of the east wetlands of the Colorado River. The Bureau of Reclamation shows this as the main map, referenced in the letter, in the hazardous waste permit. There is no mention of any contingency plans in the event of a release or accidental spill reaching this pipeline or to the waters of the United States. It appears this was never discussed with ADEQ, EPA, or Bureau of Reclamation, the Army Corps of Engineers, or the City of Yuma. For all of those reasons, City Council and the City of Yuma, both individually and as a public body, urge you to recommend denial of this hazardous waste permit to ACIDCO LLC, case number 23-01, at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting on April 25th, 2023. Should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to call upon city staff or any of us individually. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions from the commissioners? Mr. Brown?
You referred to in the letter, the council referred to a 1997 nitric acid spill, similar to that. For us young guys who wasn't around, what's that referring to?
I believe it was a nitric acid spill. A railroad container car traveling through Yuma had a leak, and I would think it was over there off close to 24th Street, if I recall.
And you heard earlier the applicant talk about a 900-plus page application with ADEQ. Do you have an opinion on whether maybe ADEQ didn't have all the information you had, or that the city might be overreacting? Which of those would you pick?
I think given the situation, I don't think ADEQ had the full the information. I think this well that we just brought up to you, that Jeremy brought to you and showed you, I mean, being right across the street, I can't imagine that would be something that they would have allowed, considering how close that is. I know the applicant's going to come up there and tell you that they'll have all these chemicals stored in self-contained concrete pads and things like that, but we're all humans, and humans make mistakes, and things happen. And things can get spilled. Chemicals can get combined with the wrong chemical and cause a reaction or explode and things like that. We've seen it recently in the TV that, in somewhere in the Midwest, we've had a derailment with hazardous waste materials and cause a huge issue. One recently last week in Indiana, as a facility similar to this, a large fire had to evacuate the community. This is right next to the Yuma Palms Mall, you know? And if you look at some of the wind charts, if there's a large fire or something, this cloud could drift over MCAS or across the rest of this community. It's just in a, you know, to Bobby McDermott's thing, it's just in a very poor location. We have hundreds of miles of open desert in our community, in our county, that would better suit something like this away from populated areas. It just doesn't make sense to the city council or the city.
Thank you. Any addition, Mr. Allen?
So is the city's opposition the location or the facility as a whole?
This is operating as a solid waste, non-hazardous. It's been operating. I don't think the city would be in opposition to that, as it continues its operation as it is today. But bringing that quantity of hazardous waste to this location is just a very poor location.
So if it was in a different location, the city wouldn't have the opposition?
Yeah, I think if it's away from populated areas or areas of large commerce, yeah, that's probably where it makes sense, where it's compatible with other heavy industrial uses that we aren't adjacent to you know, highly productive agricultural land. Yeah, I think the city wouldn't be opposed to that.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Okay. Anyone else from the public that would like to speak?
Good afternoon, Chairman and members. I'm Corey Schultz, 2029 South Arizona Avenue. Rural Metro agrees with the concerns expressed by the City of Yuma. I would like to add that I found out about a 918-page ADEQ permit packet at the local Emergency Management Committee meeting on April 13th, 2023. This permit packet was not provided to Rural Metro Fire Department by CIDCOL. I was able to secure a copy from ADEQ on Friday, April 14th. This document is extensive and will take some time to review. Rural Metro Fire has not received an emergency response plan as required by the Yuma County adopted International Fire Code or a contingency plan required in the ADEQ permit packet that I am aware of. A contingency plan is a plan that identifies potential risks and outlines steps to take and mitigate these risks. There are misrepresentations and inaccuracies I discovered in my brief glance of this 918-page ADEQ document. One specifically is in Attachment F, Procedures to Prevent Hazards in Section 4.3.2, Emergency Response Teams, that reads, quote, no arrangement with other emergency response entities such as state emergency response teams, emergency response contractors, or equipment suppliers due to the size at the facility and the nature of hazardous waste management activities conducted at the facility. Such arrangements are not deemed necessary in addition to on-site and Yuma County Fire Department capabilities, end quote. My question is, who determines this and why wasn't Rural Metro or the local emergency planning committee consulted for input? Yuma County does not have a fire department. Rural Metro Fire Department services the unincorporated Yuma County. But any type of hazardous material release, spill, fire, or explosion at this property would, without a doubt, require the mutual aid assistance from the City of Yuma Fire Department and potentially several other agencies. What was provided in this section on the Procedures to Prevent Hazards document is inaccurate and not supported by Rural Metro Fire Department. Under the permit, CIDCOL must provide a copy of the contingency plan to all emergency responders that could potentially provide assistance. Rural Metro, as well as the City of Yuma Fire Department and the City of Yuma Police Department, are required to be sent a copy of this contingency plan via certified mail, which, as far as I am aware, has not been done. The first I have seen of the contingency plan was in this document that I received on April 14th from ADEQ. Rural Metro is aware that large quantities of hazardous materials will flow through the proposed site. However, safety data sheets or hazardous materials inventory statement has not been shared with the department, which may hinder initial response and evacuation should an incident occur. Based on the limited information we have about this project, we believe there is a high potential that any incident at this facility will require multi-agency coordination and a request for resources from Yuma County, the City of Yuma, MCAS, as well as activation of the Yuma County Emergency Operations Center. We respectfully request that this project not be approved to move forward. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. Any questions?
Just one if I can, Mr. Chairman. Susan, your contention that they should have provided you these materials or the data sheets prior to getting a special use permit or
Correct.
after? They should have, they weren't in operation yet though.
So a part of their plan, their contingency plan, they stated that they provided one of those to us, to the ADEQ, and that never happened.
So they stated that they had provided one and it had not happened.
Correct.
I understand now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Anyone else from the public? Said public, but not elected.
My name's Gary Knight. I sit on the Yuma City Council. I'm also chair of the State Transportation Board. Thank you for your letting us speak with you this afternoon. As all of the city employees have told you, the city is very much against this. But I just come with this from looking at the chemicals on their list. Everything I see there is there except for nuclear waste. I mean, it's the gambit. And in my mind, it's not a matter of if there's a spill or if there's an accident, it's a matter of when. And if we allow it to come in that close to the city and residents and agriculture and the well that pumps water from the aquifer back into the river, we're just asking for trouble. And it's going to happen. It's just, as I say, it's just a matter of when. So to me, it doesn't make sense. That location is terrible for a hazardous waste site. And I just can't imagine why anybody would want to put one there next to agriculture and a mall. And it just, one of the things that concerns me really more than anything else is the trucking of that material in and out of the facility is probably where some of the accidents are going to occur. We've recently had and heard of many hazardous chemical spills by rail. It can easily happen by truck and by road. It's just a matter of the more exposure those chemicals on the trucks have to poor drivers other than the driver necessarily on the truck, accidents are going to happen, spills are going to happen, and they may happen on the roads coming into or out of the facility. And they're definitely going to have to use roads that were not, as was pointed out by our engineer, that weren't designed for that kind of 18-wheel weight. They weren't. The only highway they're going to be able to use is Highway 95, but they still got to get into the facility and out of the facility, and they're going to have to use city and county roads that were not designed for heavy commercial trucks. So in closing, I'd just like to say, I hope you will deny this request. Thank you. If there are any questions?
Address.
Oh, my address, 6341 East 41st Lane, Yuma.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Gary Elk. I'm with the local emergency planning committee. Going back to your point,
sorry, Mr. Gray, can we get your address too, please, for the record?
6378 East 43rd Street.
Right.
Mr. Vice Chair, going back to your question on the chemical list. The front page of this is what was provided with their information to the LEPC. The next 13 pages is the breakdown of these chemicals. Okay? They provided RCRA numbers, not chemicals. No one could make an informed decision off that piece of paper. I have copies if you guys would like them. I don't believe they put their best foot forward in representing this to the community, because no one could make an informed decision with that information. The LEPC, we found out, at least in the meeting on the 14th or the 13th of April, about this entire thing. We were not provided any forward information prior to that. So I'm not too sure on, and additionally, I just ran some plume models from EPA's RMP Comp. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's a modeling program with the EPA for releases. And I picked several from, just randomly. But the items that caught my attention the most, and like I said, I just grabbed one from random. This is chloromethyl ether. It has a plume model of a 55-gallon drum and 6.2 miles. That encompasses 17,983 residences with 45,000 people in the population of the city. You're more than happy to have these, but this is the stuff that's in this list. And it was not made prevalent to anybody until people started digging into this. And I only started on the 13th of April. So I don't have anything against this company. I think the location is bad. If this was out somewhere in the middle of the desert in Yuma County, I would have no problem with it. The plume model at 6.2 miles, depending on the wind, will catch the Gila River, the Colorado River, the main gravity feed that feeds City of Yuma its water, and it would also affect all the irrigation water for Yuma, because I'm in the ag industry. It would also affect all the irrigation water that goes through the American Canal over to El Centro in Imperial County. So it could be devastating. So I just think, once again, the location is not right.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Any questions?
Questions?
No.
Thank you. In the spirit of, go ahead, but if you have new information to add, that would be the best way, because we understand everybody's concerned, the location, the chemicals, and so on forth, the roads. So anything new you can add to the comments, that'd be great.
Perfect. Tony Padilla, I'm the County Emergency Manager. I'm also the LEPC Coordinator, Local Emergency Planning Committee. Yeah, I don't want to repeat too much. I think everything's been kind of talked about. Transportation in and out of the facility is a big concern, as mentioned. My concern is the loading, offloading, the location. Our fire response in the county is rural metro. Hazardous response is the city of Yuma, and that's why they have such a concern about that. The hazmat chemicals, he kind of talked about them. I did the same thing. I printed a couple of them. I could figure out what they have. They're poisons, they're flammable liquids, things like that. My role is to make sure our community is safe. Residential areas are a big concern for us. Also, the adjoining businesses and the agriculture is discussed, and air and water concerns. So with that, I just wanted to echo what everybody else has said, but I just wanted to have my 2 cents there. Thank you.
Thank
and
you.
my address is, my work address is 2200 West 28th Street. If you need my physical address, it's 3498 South Bluegrass Drive.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else?
Afternoon. Mike Erfurt, and address 7942 East 38th Street, Yuma, Arizona. I've been in Yuma in public safety for in excess of 43 years. Most of that time, I've been involved in working to make Yuma a safer and more livable place. That had to do with teaching people and informing people about the decisions that they can make to make themselves make the best decisions on their health, welfare, and safety. I teach that around the state now, even though I'm retired otherwise. A couple of things I wanted to point out, in addition to everything that's been mentioned. The ADEQ permit approval process was reported as extensive and involved public outreach. I've been involved in public outreach most of my adult life, and this was something that, oh, by the way, I'm the chairman of the LEPC. I didn't know about this until this last meeting, and maybe just before, and I started asking questions. And as a result, you think of too many times I've seen where notification, well, we did public notification, and it was maybe, I think by law, it's like 300 feet to the property owners. We're not talking about feet here, folks. We're talking about plumes that spread for miles. And when the Yuma Palms Mall management doesn't know about it, other folks, I talked to one business owner that's very close. They said they never received anything on it. But besides that, you have to think also too, if we're dealing with a fire, we're also dealing with runoff. And they're putting fire out. That's not going to be contained by a pad. That's not going to be anything. That's going to spread hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of gallons that are contaminated are going to spread. And there's no containing that, especially if we're talking about the area that's ag, the area that's groundwater. I've been out to this area. I see where that pump is. That pump's not across the street. It's right there at the edge of the property line. And that's where all this is going to go. So you've seen it yourself. Oh, by the way, the Hazardous Materials Management Plan, not something as the chairman of the LEPC that I received either or that we saw. Around the country, you've seen those plumes. It involves transportation, transfer, and storage. And that transfer is really important. We've seen lots of videos. We go over this. Our job at the LEPC is community right to know. Public information, let folks know about hazards. And we try to educate ourselves on that too. And you see it all the time. In the transfer of materials from one thing to another, people use the wrong valve, they turn the wrong thing. It just happens. And that's not a good position, not a good location for something just to happen. You've seen the numbers. We're not talking pounds. We're talking tens of thousands of tons. And that's a gigantic concern. Again, the Yuma community, whether it's the city or the county or wherever, they deserve better. And I tell you what, with all the plumes we've seen on TV and national news, I wouldn't want my fingerprints on anything. Then when they come looking for, how did this happen? So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Any questions? Thank you.
Applicant, would you like to come back up and, oh, hold on, oh, forgot Antonio. Can't get away from Antonio.
Wouldn't be a meeting without our friend.
Oh,
Antonio, where are you?
Doing good.
Hiding back there.
I wasn't planning on talking today, but I heard everybody saying MCS Yuma. So I was like, let me say something. So my name is Antonio Martinez. I'm representing Marine Corps Air Station Yuma. And I echo pretty much everybody that was said here before me. I spoke with our emergency response team this morning, and they kind of mentioned kind of like the same thing. It's like, hey, we haven't received anything, before April 14th. The reason we kind of like figure this out, like all the chemicals and everything that is happening, is because we have a mutual aid agreement with the local municipalities to assist in case any emergency response. And then we're talking about the plumes. And then we are 2.5 miles directly south of this location. So if the air benefits us, I guess, and it goes our way, it's definitely not gonna be a pretty sight. But I mean, kind of like every time I come in front of you, I mean, I'm always looking for the safety of the public. There's gonna be many affected before he actually gets to Marine Corps Air Station Yuma. So I'm not here to say, oh, because of the base. Because if he gets to the base, there's bigger problems. But I mean, we as always, we always looking at the different case scenarios, and just looking at the chemicals that were provided and the magnitude of, the potential things that could go wrong, then we see the concern and that it can actually even reach beyond us. So that's one thing. Another thing I know that was mentioned that MCS Yuma produces hazmat. Well, yes, I think everybody does. I don't think we're talking about the magnitude that they're talking about here at this location. And we are highly, highly regulated by the EPA. So, I mean, we have our own environmental department that takes care of all our internal issues, so our internal hazmat. So, like I said, I just felt like since, our name is being mentioned that much, that at least I say, a couple of words without repeating pretty much what everybody else said.
Okay, thank you, Antonio.
Any questions for the base?
Yes, how much hazmat material does the base produce annually, and what do you do with it?
I don't know the total amount, to be honest. I didn't actually ask that question. What we do with it, we do kind of what I mentioned. We actually get that out of our area through the proper channels, obviously. So I don't know if that responds or not, but that's pretty much all I know.
The department, but we get it. Thank you, Antonio.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. Any other hidden departments out there? All right, go ahead.
Hidden departments.
Barry Olson, 101 East Second Street. I'm the applicant. I'm gonna need more than 3 minutes.
Got
Couple
3
of
in.
things. Segueing on what MCA said, that's exactly the type of customer or entity that we serve. It's entities like the military that have and generate hazardous waste as part of their operations. Our type of facility takes those and basically transfers them to a proper disposal or treatment location. As with MCAS, which is heavily regulated by the EPA, this site is heavily regulated by ADEQ in conjunction with the EPA. So I don't see a difference in what we're doing versus the regulatory authority that's over MCAS. Now I want to clarify a couple of points. Could you turn the overhead on? I want to provide.
Curveball there. I don't think we've turned that on ever.
Oh.
I think that works, Barry.
It's for looks.
Oh.
It's for looks. It's just one of those inventory items.
You want me to scan it?
The city had one.
Yeah, and what I'm going to show you is basically as part of the 922-page permit that was approved by ADEQ, there's a transportation plan. And the access to the site is not to the roundabout. It's off Interstate 8, north on 3E to 13th Street. It's basically left turn all the way down, and that's not a residential area. You get to 13th Street, predominantly light industrial, heavy industrial. Now, the city got up here and spoke about the conditions of the road. Any of you live in the city of Yuma? I don't find that their roads are much different than the roads that are adjacent to this site. But those roads are used by trucks every day without incident, heavy vehicles, tractors of all the agricultural. If you're familiar with that area, there's produce trucks, heavy use trucks that go up and down those roads every day, and I'm not aware of any accidents or anything that would impact the use of those roads for this facility. As some of you have picked up, there was an extensive process I've mentioned before to ADEQ and the EPA to get this permit approved. And I don't know what to tell you other than you go through that process, and I've got some excerpts from what was submitted. Here's a letter dated November 12th, 2019 to Rural Metro Fire Department, signed by my client, advising that the permit application was being submitted, what we were doing. It spells it out right here. We notified Rural Metro. And so you could kind of see our amazement when we get up here and said we didn't know anything about it. I attended a meeting in October with county staff and Rural Metro present. We notified then that we were filing for this SUP after our permit had been approved. At no time were we told, well, we don't have that permit. It wasn't provided to us. The ADEQ permit that was issued, all the notices, Yuma County Rural Metro, Yuma County Sheriff's Office, YRMC, various other notifications. In addition, there was a public advertisement that was placed in the newspaper. All we can do is go through the ADEQ process. So we're a little bit surprised to hear tonight, and some of this hasn't even presented to us. There's a letter you have signed by 6 city council members. We haven't seen that. It hasn't been provided to us. So it's a little unfair to sit up here and say, well, we didn't know anything about the process when the local, the county served by rural metro. We also know there is a large agricultural chemical producer in this county that rural metro has an emergency or hazmat response component to. It's out in the Blaisdell area. That facility produces a lot of chemicals. It's recognized, it's welcome in our community, been here a long time. No incidents out there. They operate under permits, same as we operate under permits. They're close to the wash, but you don't hear the type of concerns about that type of operation as you're hearing about this operation, which is much smaller. And the point I'm making is, I think it's somewhat disingenuous for the city to get up here, and I respect a lot of the folks at the city, and I've had to bite my tongue listening to a lot of this, because the county has its staff. The staff reviewed this process. It had everything, and it has given a favorable or recommendation of approval. The city doesn't like it. The city locates its mall next to a petroleum distributorship. There's also other industrial areas in that area. So the city now comes back when someone's trying to use their industrial area or expand their use and complains, oh, it's next to our mall, it's next to our PAC. But the city placed those facilities there. This neighborhood's been there for a long time with quite a few industrial uses. And that's where we're located. And it's a property that's well positioned for this operation, which I'm going to point out is less than 5 acres. Yes, there will be waste that come in. We know what they are. We're highly regulated. We've went through all the proper procedures. And if city staff and other individuals in the community ignored the notices that were provided to provide public input that ADEQ and the EPA approved, I don't know what else to tell you other than, we've done what we're supposed to do, but those members of the community that are in charge of putting public comment shouldn't wait till the last minute to give the public comment in a hearing like this. It should be put on the record much earlier on so that the applicant has a fair and ample opportunity to respond to the points that were raised tonight.
Mr. Olson, does the notices show what date they were mailed out to those entities?
What date?
Yeah.
Well, the one for rural metro is November 12th, 2000.
Not that one, the other page that you showed, the one with all the
From ADEQ.
ADEQ.
The final permit from ADEQ was issued on September 12th. And then prior to that, I think we applied in 15 or 16. Wait, let me ask to figure out when we applied for the permit. I know it was a couple years ago. I'm going to have Mr. Peck answer that.
James Peck, 3104 East Camelback Road, Phoenix. The first application was in 2019. After the DEQ had thoroughly reviewed that, we came back and made a number of changes to the point where we couldn't meet the 180-day time frame for that application. We reapplied in 2022, in April of 2022, and that's the application that was approved. Was that the question you were in?
Yes.
When did you mail out the notifications to the other individuals?
Those were with
YRMC?
the 2019 application. So all those that he read off, they're all attached to attachment F, those notices.
But those notices get sent by ADEQ?
Those were sent by us.
In 2019?
Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Ms. Zerman.
Yeah, it's rather disingenuous of the applicant to talk about Sellers Petroleum and other areas that have had facilities built near them, and we should have known, and this is just a really good thing for Yuma. Everything has changed, and the idea that this site with unstable soils, no drainage, you're just glossing over. I understand that's your job, but this is not the site. This is not the soils. This is not the area. the pipeline. I don't know how many of you are as old as I, but I can remember during a World Series game where fish were found dead in the canal, and we had an international incident with Mexico because somebody had washed out a pesticide tank. You know, it's just, this is not.
Right, we understand. Thank you.
On the screen, I appreciate staff, this is the route that basically was shown, and you can see it highlighted in red, I hope. The access that we're proposing, it's not next to the pack, it's, you know, not through, it's, as you see it, down 3E to 13th.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. Anything else? Any
If there's any
questions?
questions or comments from the commission, I'd be more than glad to address.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I have one.
Go ahead.
Barry, they keep talking about safety data sheets and everything. Why was none of that provided to the fire department?
Well, a couple of things on that, Mr. Van White. One is we supplied the list of chemicals that was went over, that's part of the permit. But the material data sheets, and Mr. Bryant picked up on this, until we start operations, as the product comes in other words, it's okay, what products are you bringing in? Then as part of the ADEQ permit, we have to provide the local emergency response committee with those sheets per the permit. And it's also required as one of the conditions of approval, which is replicative. So the county has a condition, and ADEQ, EPA have a condition that we supply those data sheets as chemicals or materials are brought in.
Thank you, Mr. Olson.
Thank you.
That's it. I'll bring it back to the commission for further discussion.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I understand we have ADEQ on the phone. Can we ask them if they have any comments? I mean, they've been criticized a bit tonight, perhaps, about not knowing everything they should have known. Does ADEQ, would they be willing to respond to that?
The ADEQ still on the phone?
Yes, Anthony Leverock here.
Okay. Did you hear the question, Mr. Lip?
Well, we stand by the hazardous waste permit that was issued. Much of the concern regards contingency plan. The contingency plan that was submitted was contained in the permit. It was made available to the public, and it contains general 3 tiers of general response, not any particular specific type of response. You can come up with many hypotheticals for emergency conditions. So the contingency plan that we approved in the permit has 3 tiers from below reportable quantities to evacuation. And that contingency plan is consistent with other contingency plans that are maintained by the other TSDFs, the hazardous waste management facilities, excuse me. So we continue to believe that the contingency plan that's in the permit is adequate for this facility at this time. The contingency plan is required to be updated if there are any changes, or if during the implementation of the plan it fails, and that's per EPA regulation, which we've adopted. And so the contingency plan may be expanded in the future based upon spills, fires, or explosions. Those are the three types of scenarios that are covered under the contingency plan requirements. Other than that, as far as the quantities to be stored, a lot of that was in tons, and we actually, our permit's more in gallons. I did the calculation, and it did not seem to jive with the thousands of tons. There is a statement in the notification to the rural metro and other local emergency response contacts. And that statement says that CIDCOL will process approximately 2,300 tons per month. So multiply that times 12. You do get something like 24 or so, 25,000 tons per year. So there is that. As far as storage, it is in gallons, and there are 3 storage pads at the facility, and they will store. I don't have the number in front of me right now, but it's something approximately like.
Hey, can I do a follow-up question? I know you're not able to see the presentation, but there was discussion about a groundwater well, water pump that was 60 feet from this facility that ends up taking water to the east wetlands area of the city. Were you aware of that, or does that in any way change your mind, knowing that you have this groundwater pumping well that ends up flowing into the Colorado?
Yes, we are aware of the Bureau of Reclamation well that's located across the street, basically. The facility is a storage facility on pads with containment, either as a design of the pads, or they will use containment pallets. Either one will work. So not being a disposal facility, the impact on local wells was not evaluated, and that's intentional. This is a storage facility. Releases are part of corrective action, and CIDCOL would have to respond to any releases and arrest any impact on groundwater or soils, and during the operating life of the facility. There was a RCRA facility assessment that was done prior to the permit being issued. That was for the current state of the facility, and as a result, there are some studies that have been required of CIDCOL to perform, site assessments of the existing pad. There's one large pad there, and then a number of smaller pads that are for consolidation of solid waste, and they are in the process of completing that now. They've submitted the work plans to us. We have approved one set of work plans, and now they're actually doing a background metals assessment that would actually figure into final closure comparison of at closure metals in the soils to what it was prior to any receipt of hazardous waste. So we are working with them on assessing the current state site. But as the facility operates, any releases have to be addressed for the corrective action requirements, and that's in the permit.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Okay, thank you so much for being on hold and answering those questions. Coming back to the commission, further discussion? Hearing none, do I have a motion? Everybody's awake?
Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
have you closed the public hearing?
No, I did. I didn't have to. Okay, I'll close public hearing then. Public hearing is now closed. All right, coming back to the commissioners.
I don't know if I'm ready to do a motion yet, but I'm trying to understand from an applicant's position. If you get through ADEQ, you wouldn't expect to have a lot of problem with the county. ADEQ is the the tough nuts here, but from a political perspective, if we were to take politics into consideration, it's obvious that the political will of the people aren't with the applicant.
I do have a question for Anson. Do you have any comments in regards to the mentions on the scoring system? The 3 points that city staff brought up that they feel were not properly calculated?
Mr. Chairman, the checklist, the development evaluation checklist is the review done by staff, and that is the review that was completed. If the city disagrees with that, I would take that as their opinion.
Politically said. Thank you.
Give him an award.
Give him an award. Give me a second.
I will say one thing on that. I will disagree with the 10-minute response time with the sheriff's department because that is wrong. So I will tell you that I disagree with that portion. So that is totally wrong.
Would it be faster or slower?
They'd be faster than that by all means.
So that, all right, cool. Thank you. Who had a comment?
No, go ahead.
What?
Well, I'd like to make a motion to deny special use permit case 2301.
I have a motion by Ms. McDermott to deny. Do I have a second? I have a second. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor for denial, say aye.
Roll call vote.
Roll call, please. Yeah.
Okay, Ron Rice?
I'm in favor of the
Of the
motion.
denial, right? So aye.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Jim Allen?
No.
Tim Bowers?
Yes, I don't agree with the denial.
Wait, hold on a second.
Are
Would it be
you, are you agreeing to the denial?
No.
So you want, okay. So
Yeah, I disagree with the denial.
Nay, so yours is a nay.
Danny Bryant?
Yes, I'm going to explain my vote. No, I'm going to explain my vote before I vote. I promised the supervisor that appointed me to this district that I would make recommendations to him without taking in political aspects of the decision. And I understand the city's position. It's one vote away from being 1 point away from being a denial. It's scored at 250. But with the ADEQ's recommendation that they're standing behind their recommendation to issue the permit. From a planning point of view, from our job, I think I have to vote against this motion, but I'm not telling you what I would do if I was on the political side of making that decision at the Board of Supervisors. So my vote's a no.
Yes, Rosales?
Mirror his comments.
Now you can't stand on me and walk all around.
Well, no.
Come on, Mr. Chairman.
Well, no, I mean, we're appointing here to go based on the application, and it's hard when you have ADEQ and EPA that's already done their approval process. I kind of don't agree with the notification process if it wasn't redone, but based on staff's recommendation, we've gone through many of these cases where, based on the staff, we make our decision. Again, the political side, I understand it, and the planning session part is a whole different part. I agree with Danny and what he's saying, so I will also at this time say nay to the motion.
No.
Aye.
I also want to explain, this is probably the hardest decision I've had to make, but being in what I do for a living, the contractor is going to be held responsible for their 29 CFR 1910.1200, their emergency action plan. They're going to require to have all that stuff in place, period. I have a master's degree in occupational safety and health. I'm a certified environmental specialist, so I know what they're all required to do. So unfortunately, I say no as well.
to 7. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 6. 2 to 6. So then the motion will be going to the Board of Supervisors as an.
Here's a new motion. Mr. Chairman,
I get you, but let.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, you have the option of making another motion.
Correct. Just want to make sure you guys were. All right. So the motion fails. So do I have another motion?
Mr. Chairman, based on the comments that I made earlier, I will move that we recommend approval from a planning perspective of this request.
I'll second that.
We have a motion. We have a second. Let's do roll call again, just to make sure. And this is for approval of the special use permit that has been presented.
Ron Rice? No. Jim Allen?
Yes.
Tim Bowers?
Yes.
Danny Bryant?
Yes. I won't explain my.
Matthias Rosales?
You can't do that twice, sir. Yes.
Walt Mulhern?
Yes.
Holly McDermott?
No.
Ron Van Wy?
Yes.
Motion carries 6 to 2.
Thank you.
I wish I could have parked in back.
That was a hard one.
Yeah, it was.
It is going against all the.
I mean, they passed it. They passed it.
Mayor still has to go to the Board of Supervisors.
You work for the city. Okay.
Your life's gonna be hell too.
That makes perfect every day. But that's what it was. But
I don't think most of them will hold it against us. I mean,
I mean, I didn't even have the nerve to say it. But when ADEQ comes forward, it's tough.
I can't them down if they didn't know something, right?
And I work with those guys almost on a daily basis too. And
That would be it, right? Would it? Thank you so much for being on the call with us today.
Very fine. Have a good evening.
You too, thank you.
It'd be beautiful. They would move
If the professionals approved it, you know, that's their job.
We've got 5 minutes to finish.
We have 5 minutes to finish.
It ought to go fast.
I don't know. I'm sweating after this vote. This is the first time I sweat on a vote. Kind of like the fact that they.
I know.
All right, rezoning case number 2301, Rodolfo Acosta, and then that one is presented by, where's my payover?
He's there.
Juan.
Ron
There you go,
Juan
Juan.
Rubio.
All right. I didn't want to look up yet.
Thank you, Chairman Rosales, members of the commission. Juan Leal Rubio, Senior Planner with the Planning and Zoning Division. This is a rezoning case number 2301, a request by Rodolfo Acosta, acting as the agent for Maria Ambriz, requesting a rezoning of the parcel 35,283 square feet in size from low-density residential, 20,000 square feet minimum, to low-density residential, 15,000 square feet minimum, located in the City of Yuma General Planning Area at 671 South Prado Road in Yuma. And the intent is to split the property to be able to construct an additional dwelling unit. This is the subject property, crosshatch, and to the north we have property zone R120 and location of single-family homes. To the west we have property zone R18, also single-family homes. To the south R120, single-family homes, and to the southeast we have the properties that are zone MHS 4.5, containing mixture of mobile homes and manufactured homes. Also to the southeast, property zone R3, location of multifamily dwelling units. And to the east, we have property zone RVP, which is owned by the Yuma County Flood Control District. It's location of the retention basin. This is the aerial imagery of the property and surrounding uses. This is the site plan that was provided by the applicant that shows the existing home and how they intend to split the property. Looking east at the property, looking south from the subject property along El Prado Road. Today we received a letter in opposition from a property owner within the zoning area This person owns 3 properties that are across the street. I'll show you the location map. We also received comments from the Public Works Department regarding water and sewer connections and assessments as part of the Avenue B and C sewer project. They'll have to do connections and pay water sewer hookup fees to the city of Yuma when the property is split for the construction of a new home. Staff is recommending approval of this rezoning case with the following performance condition: that within 60 days of board approval, the owner provide an ARS 121134 waiver, and that they record a schedule for development disclosure statement. And also within a schedule for development reads that within 3 years of board approval, the property shall be split by means of a land division permit per the Yuma County zoning ordinance. This here shows the person in opposition who owns the parcels shown here with a star. And some of the pictures that the person was in opposition, I gave him a call because he feels that the property, he feels that the property might be used as a salvage yard. I told him that the zoning was for to construct a new home and would not allow a salvage yard. He actually told me that there was some vehicles that were being stored on the property. And I went out there today and I took pictures. This is what I saw: the storage of 7 inoperable vehicles and some engine parts. And that concludes staff's presentation. Ready to answer any questions.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Juan, obviously, as far as the parcel goes, it's in a violation of the zoning ordinance for the vehicles that are parked there and stuff. Will it have to become compliant before you allow them to build on it, or is there anything right now that in order for us to approve it?
Chairman Rosales, if this gets approved, as part of the land division permit, we could add a site constraint that would require that they bring the property into compliance.
Chairman, can I ask you to repeat what you just said, Juan?
As part of this rezoning process, they have to submit if this gets approved, they have to submit a land division permit to be able to split the property and build a home on the new lot. As part of the land division permit approval process, we could add a site constraint that would require that they bring the property into compliance prior to the issuance of permits.
Go back to that picture.
Which one?
The cars. And the compliance, you would be talking about the, probably those 3 over here are running. The other ones look like they've been there for a while. But
Yeah, the boats and all that stuff.
But all that stuff in the construction phase would have to probably be removed for all that stuff. So
But that's not part of the package now, right? You would add that.
you would add that to the motion.
No, at the land.
No, we would not add that as a condition. We would do that as part of the land division permit approval
okay.
process.
Okay. Right. Okay. Okay. Any other questions from staff? At this time, I will open it up to the public. Is the applicant here, or any questions or comments?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, the property is.
Can you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Okay, my name is Rodolfo Acosta. The address is 671 South Del Prado Road, Yuma, Arizona, 85364.
Okay, go ahead.
And then, I don't know if you have any questions. So anybody.
Do you have any issues, do you have any comments in regards to that?
Tell to Juan about the cars. I will tell, I will remove soon as possible, because I guess for the goodwill to the guy who's gonna buy the property, I say, can you let me put the cars? Okay, that's fine. But now I know it's kind of problem for that. I just, as soon as I can, I will remove everything. So
Okay.
that's for sure.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All right, here none. Thank you. Anyone else from the public? All right, you can go ahead and, thank you. All right, bring it back to the committee, close the public hearing for this and bring it back to the commission board.
Mr. Chairman, make a
Yes,
motion?
Sir?
I'd like to approve, recommend approval of rezoning case 23-01 as presented by staff.
Okay, we got a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any against? Okay, motion carries. Item number 6, rezoning case number,
Before you move on, I'd just like to let you all know that today is Juan's last meeting.
What?
What?
Where are you going, Juan?
He has resigned from his position with Yuma County, so this is the last time he will be presenting before you.
He shouldn't get fired, but I mean, where are you going?
He's leaving on his own.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Maggie, don't the commission have to approve his resignation?
Bring it up for approval.
Present it, Juan.
Well, with that said, Juan, thank you for all the work you've done for the Yuma County planning, and we wish you the best wherever you're going, and thank you for everything you've done. You will be missed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, commissioners. It's been a pleasure serving the community of Yuma County. I'll be around. I mean, I'm not moving anywhere. I might come back. Who knows? I might be sitting there with you, right?
There you go. All right, cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. Thank you, Juan. It was a pleasure working with you and working everything with you, brother. Thank you.
Like I'm enjoying retirement now.
Wow.
Too young to retire. Rezoning case number 23-02.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Javier Barraza,
Yeah,
Senior
we-
Planner, presenting rezoning case 2302. This is a request to rezone a parcel 10 gross acres in size from rural area 10-acre minimum to suburban ranch 2-acre minimum located in the Yuma Mesa planning area, located at 17295 South Avenue B and a half. The intent of the applicant is to split the subject property into four parcels, one 4 acres in size and 3 in 2 acres in size. This is the zoning and vicinity map showing the subject parcel crosshatch and highlighted in red, which is zone RA10. Is access on Avenue B and a half along the west and from the east along County 17 and 1/4 Street. Avenue B and a half is a paved road, while County 17 and 1/4 is not. Parcels on the north are zone SR2, improved with a mixture of manufactured homes and site built. Parcels 11 and 12 on the west are vacant parcels, zone suburban ranch 2-acre minimum. Parcel 15 to the southwest is zone RA10, improved with a site built. Parcel number 1 is zone RA10 and is a location of a farming operation. Parcel number 2 is an ag and is improved with a site built dwelling as zone RA10 as well. Parcel number 1 is zone RA10 and citrus trees. And finally, parcels 15 and 8 on the east are zone SR2, improved with a site built and a manufactured home. This is an aerial view showing the subject parcel outlined in red, and is the location of a residence built in 1930 and accessory structures. The eastern 8 acres approximately are in alfalfa currently. This is the site plan submitted by the applicant. This is how the applicant plans to split the parcel. So he's going to create 3 parcels on the east, 2 acres in size. It's going to also establish a utility and access easement on the south boundary with a hammerhead at the end for emergency vehicles. This is a view looking South Avenue B and a half. Property is on the left. This is a view looking east of the subject parcel from Avenue B and a half. Now looking northeast of the subject parcel from the southwest corner. Now looking east at County 17 and 1/4 Street from the middle of the parcel on the southern boundary. Looking northwest. No comments received from property owners within the zoning area. We received comments from MCIS and Yuma County Airport Authority. Staff recommends approval of rezoning case 2302, subject to the following performance conditions. Within 60 days of board approval, the owner agent shall do the following: provide an ARS 12-1134 waiver, record an agricultural disclosure statement, record an infrastructure disclosure statement, record a navigation disclosure statement, and a schedule for development disclosure statement as well. Performance condition number 2, within 120 days of approval by the board, the owner shall dedicate an additional 30 feet of right-of-way along the west side, which is the alignment of Avenue B and a half, by means of a warranty deed. Also, the following is scheduled for development. Number 1, within 5 years of approval by the board, and prior to approval of the land division permit, the owner shall apply for a grading permit with the Yuma County Engineering Department to improve the north 30 feet of the alignment of County 17 1/4 Street from Avenue B to the east property line of the subject parcel as an access-built road in a dust-free condition by application of an aggregate-based course referred to Standard C, and submit certification from a licensed engineer confirming the roadway was constructed according to Standard C gravel road. Number 2, within 5 years of approval by the board and prior to approval of the land division permit, The owner shall apply for a grading permit with the Yuma County Engineering Department to improve the new egress utility easement 20 feet in width as an access-built road in a dust-free condition as well by application of a ABC, and submit certification from a licensed engineer confirming that the new egress utility easement was constructed according to Standard C. Number 3, within 5 years of approval by the board and prior to approval of the land division, all lots shall be provided with means of irrigation and access to irrigation water prior to development of any of the existing parcels. The owner applicant will submit a letter from the irrigation district to the Department of Development Services confirming that a satisfactory irrigation system is installed and the individual lots will have access to irrigation water prior to the approval of the land division permit. Number 4, within 5 years of approval by the board, the owner shall split the property by means of a land division permit in accordance with Section 507 of the Yuma County zoning ordinance. Any required egress easement shall be recorded with a land division permit. That concludes staff's presentation, and the applicant is present and is objecting schedule for development number 1. Doesn't agree with that one.
Sir, do you have a map that you can pull back up to show what he's objected to on
Sure. This is the condition the applicant is objecting, and I have an
Right,
image.
but do you have that roadway on the
Yes.
map that we?
Which will be,
So,
where you see the standpipe right at the end of the center, it's where, you know, the county 17 and 1/4 starts towards Avenue B.
that's
You have
not,
an
that's where
aerial
his,
map of that?
that's where his property ends, is right there?
Correct, Mr. Chairman.
And so he's agreeing to develop the road in front of his property, but he's objecting to developing
the
roads on
public-
someone else's property.
Public right of way.
Yeah, but who owns the property that the right of way is going through?
Yep.
Someone else.
Mr. Chairman, that's public right of way, 17 and 1/4 from
Like
that.
the roadway is.
Yes,
But who
correct.
owns the land on each side? Is that county public land?
No, Mr. Chairman, that
No,
belongs
private
to
land.
the applicant and on the.
Just
right-
wanted to make sure I understood.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that irrigated by pipe or an open ditch?
Mr. Chairman, the staff is not aware. We didn't receive any comments. I didn't see any installation for irrigation from where I took the pictures, but the applicant is here, the owner, so probably he will be able to clarify how his property is irrigated.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
just to clarify your question, the applicant is objecting to improvement of the roadway along the south, which is the alignment of County 17 and the 1/4 Street. You can see it on the site plan. All of the lots on the east side of of this property, or all 3 lots that are proposed to be split or created, will have access off of County 17 and the 1/4 Street. And the staff is recommending that County 17 and the 1/4 Street be improved to a gravel standard.
But for the 3 parcels, but they're asking condition 1 for it to be further to the other
Chairman,
parcels.
that is condition number 2. They need to improve
Yeah,
the
condition
internal.
2,
Yes,
but
correct.
the condition number 1 was
It will be
further
outside, yes. on
outside of the
right-of-way.
developed
Correct.
parcels. Yeah.
Do you have an aerial map of that, please?
This is a very narrow, just try to focus on the subject property. I did a zoom out version.
No, but that gives us a good point of view.
Yes.
You're talking about
Correct.
the
From
red,
the east
what-
to the right.
right. Yeah. All that, what is that, red trees? What are those kind of, those look like palm tree, date tree, huh?
Date trees, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Javier,
Yes.
Maggie, George, Amber.
See, I'm not the only one that does that. See?
Yes.
See?
It's been a long day, I'm sorry.
Yes.
As far as the improvement goes, that's strictly for access of fire vehicles, right? Is that what the purpose of it is, for the AB road, for the compaction, for fire access, or?
Mr. Chairman, one of the conditions from Fire Code will be all-weather access road. According to a letter received that was sent to the applicant, Rural Metros certified that the existing road from the east property line of the subject parcel to Avenue B, it's okay for us on an all-weather access road.
And as far as What he's opposing to, though,
Improving to standard C,
and he, okay, gotcha, thank you.
that segment.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Applicant?
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Vianney Vega. Address is 2619 South Avenue 2.5E. I'm representing the property owner, and I'm the applicant for the rezoning request. Real quick, just to answer your question, Commissioner McDermott, it is irrigated by pipe. Yeah. If you can go to the Javier, if you can go to the other slide where the zoning, all the zonings you have, right there. So the property, it's a quarter mile from Avenue B. Yeah, and no, B to the east, to the east.
Okay.
And it's a quarter mile that is being requested to my client to improve. When my client decided to rezone the property and do the split, he came to Yuma County and asked for what would be the requirements for him to be able to do that. And they told him that he needs to first go through the rezoning process, and there will be the possibility of a requirement of a road improvement. And he was told that that decision was going to be made by the fire marshal. So he went on to schedule a meeting with the fire marshal into the property, on his property, and they met over there. They walked the County 17 and a quarter street, look at the conditions, and the fire marshal felt that that road is appropriate for the access of the fire department vehicles. He sent, actually, he got an email with that response. I don't know if that email made it to your packet, but I have a copy if it needs to be provided to you guys. So based on that, that's why we are opposing to that condition of the development, condition number 1. So the property, my client doesn't have a problem improving the road right in front of his property, which is he understands that needs to be done, and he doesn't have a problem with that. But he does have a problem adding a quarter of a mile road that it's about 4 or 5 parcels they're going to benefit off of that new road.
And just to put that in perspective, that would be parcels number.
It's all one.
15, and whatever
15,
Z's.
and then there's
Right.
there's still another 2-acre parcel to get to Avenue B. So I mean, he'll be improving a brand new road to those
Creating a
properties.
new intersection on Avenue B, which is a high traffic
Correct.
road, that's probably just going to
Correct.
have that.
And the road is in good conditions to be utilized for the fire emergency vehicles. So that's why we feel that requirement is just an overkill for what he wants to do.
All right, any questions?
Just to affirm, your client's in agreement with the other.
That's correct. That's correct, yes. He doesn't have a problem with the other conditions. The only one is that number 1, that he doesn't want to have to spend the money on that quarter of a mile road.
Any questions for the applicant? No? Okay,
No.
thank you. Anyone else from the public? Hearing none, I'll close it from the public and bring it back to the commission.
I have a question for staff. How come the road's good for emergency vehicles, but you guys still want him to add more to it? I don't follow your logic.
Mr.
How
Chairman,
come if the road's acceptable for emergency vehicles per the letter here?
that was received, Chairman, that was received after.
Oh, after.
And there was a reference in the project assessment that they had. See, before certain projects, some meetings are performed like a project assessment we discuss, and the access through County 17 and a quarter was discussed, and one of the options was if the rural metro certified that that road was all-weather access road, it will be okay.
So it's okay with the county, with you
It's
guys?
okay with, that will be like the requirement for, an all-weather access road will be required by fire code, building safety, not for planning. So,
This is the rub, right? You're
Yes,
telling us
and
that the Yuma County's chief fire official don't want to accept rural Metro's decision that it's okay. And so rural Metro's, the fire department, and they say it's okay, but our chief fire official says it's not okay. Uh-oh, I didn't know.
It's okay.
Oh, woke the bear up. Woke the bear.
Mr. Chairman, take a 10-minute break.
Please. What shirt are you wearing? What shirt are you wearing today?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Pat Headington, Chief Building Fire Code Official. A letter I'm not aware of. I've not seen this letter from Rural Metro.
Here you go, sir.
Today. Just came today.
Chairman, I think, I'm sorry?
Rural Metro, it's 2019 unless they typed the wrong date in there.
That's auto-generated.
Huh?
That's auto-generated.
So?
No, I'm saying they couldn't have typed it wrong. It's auto-generated, so that is accurate.
I think here the main issue is that the letter was sent directly to the applicant and probably wasn't forwarded to staff, so it's nothing against staff
Maybe they
dropping the ball. 'Cause I don't see.
It does say January
Mis-
20th, 2019.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, the project assessment meeting happened in 2018. Probably the applicant went and contacted Rural Metro the year after.
Okay.
With this said, I mean, do you have any, does it change your input or?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I think I would prefer at this point to coordinate with Rural Metro as well as the applicant before we recommend or accept the recommendations of Rural Metro at this point. So I think it is something that we can work with the applicant on down the road, but I don't have a recommendation as to how the commission would like to proceed, either waiving that requirement or otherwise at this point.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right, any questions?
Send it to them.
Questions, motion, concerns?
Yeah, VNA is coming back.
Did you want something else?
Thank you for the opportunity, Vianney Vega again, 2619 South Avenue 2 and Ivy. I really would like to push for that condition to be removed because once it's there, it becomes a condition and we have to meet that construction of that road. So if we provide the approval from the rural department, rural metro department, and they're the ones that are going to be they're the ones that are requiring the road to be accessible. I feel that that's a moot point. That condition needs to be removed. Otherwise, it's going to stay there as a condition. And when we go do the land division, we're going to be forced to develop that quarter-mile road. So thank you for the opportunity.
All right, so with that, we'll close.
Hold on.
Uh-oh.
After him, we're closing public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, point of clarification, Rural Metro is not the fire authority for Yuma County. Yuma County adopted the fire code, and as such, the fire code official is charged with its effect. So we do coordinate with Rural Metro, and we respect their positions, but Yuma County remains the authority on the fire code.
Understood. Thank you for the clarification. All right, back to the public hearing is closed. Back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
If I may, if you're okay with Mr. Bryant, I would move that we continue this to next session and allow staff to get with Fire Code and Rural Metro to coordinate that item number 1 and readdress it at the next session.
Looking at staff over there with a certain question. Do you have a question or concern about that? No?
The commission, Mr. Chairman.
The motion died for a lack of a second, right?
I hear a second.
It's
so
possible.
I had a motion, but I didn't hear a second, right?
I would second that to allow staff to have ample time to confirm with.
Did you have something better, Mr. Bryant, that you wanted to bring up? I mean,
Well,
I'm
we have-
open.
well, let's follow the rules. We have a
You're right,
motion
sir.
and we
You're
have a
right, sir.
second.
You're right, sir.
So let's go ahead and finish that.
Mr. Chairman, in
Yeah.
the motion, can we say that it to be continued to the May 23rd meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
You verbally say that? Chief?
Yes, I'll continue the May 23rd meeting.
I second that again.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion on this, continuing the item?
I just explained my vote. I'm going to vote against it because I don't think it makes sense just to kick the ball down the road. If this dies, I'll make a motion to approve without condition number 1.
Sounds good. So with that, all in favor to the motion to continue, please say aye.
That's why I asked Mr.
Any
Bryant.
against, say nay.
Nay.
Nay. All right. Do we have a motion?
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Bryant.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend approval of rezoning case 32-02 as presented with the exception of condition number 1 to be removed.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any further discussion? None? Any nays, say nay. All right, motion passes. Thank you. Discussion and item number 7 was moved to the, which meeting number? Item number 7 was moved, right? I was told by Bertie when I walked in.
No, Mr. Chairman, item number 7 requested withdrawal.
Withdraw? Okay, so that's gone. Okay. Otherwise, we'll have the whole full room here. Discussion by the commission members, planning director of events. Amber, I think you had something you wanted to mention?
Yes. Actually, did you want to talk to me about the work?
Got a dinner late too.
Okay.
Amber, we want to go home, don't you? What do you got?
Okay, so before our next meeting on May 23rd, we're doing this with the Board of Adjustment. We're doing a work session before the meeting, and we would be providing dinner. And it's just for our attorney to kind of go over just a discussion about, what did we say it was going to be?
Chairman and commissioners, I don't intend to bore you by any means. It would be just more about board decorum, a little bit on open meeting law, and the procedures to be used, and just be a little reminder. I don't expect it to take a long time. I could answer some questions if anybody has some questions about your role on this volunteer board. So I think the suggestion is to have a work session an hour before. Is that right? So at 4 o'clock on the 23rd, of May.
Okay.
If you guys were interested, if who would be able to make it before we.
Just
out
ahead
there.
of time notice, I will not be here that day. I have a city trip. I'm being sent on May 23rd. So.
Order him a sandwich anyway. I'll leave
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I'm really, 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 really interested, but I will not be able to be present that week. It's
I'll take his drink.
graduation week.
You want to try for
150 lifeguards.
We could try for June. The June meeting date is.
And with that said, anyone else is not going to be here May 23rd, so make sure we have a quorum for that day's meeting.
I'll be
Still not.
She's not going to be here. I'm not going to be here.
here.
Yep. Everybody's here? Okay, so you guys should be okay with quorum, right? For 2 of us missing.
The next one is June 27th. I could bring it up. We can talk about this again in May. We can bring it up next time to see if that would work. I mean, I don't know.
June works for me. If you
June
guys.
works for me at this point. So
But
we
again,
do June?
but if you guys want to do it May 27th, I don't have. Trust me, I get this training at the city.
We were really doing it for you.
No, I'm good. I'm good. So if you guys.
It's mostly, and I mean, there's about 4 new. We try to do this every so often. Just
Training's for the chairman, right?
so we can plan for June 27th then.
Okay. You guys okay with that? One more month with that? All right, we'll plan it for then.
June 27th.
I just feel bad because you said you're doing a work session for the board of just the same day? Is this gonna change your guys'?
No, we're gonna do it before their meeting.
Ah, okay. Okay, so it's not gonna mess up your calendar and all that stuff. Okay, I'm trying to be. All right, with that said, anything else? No? Motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn for the evening.
You don't sound too sure about that.
I know, I'll second
Alright,
that.
let's
I say, we
go.
all second.
I got a motion, second, all in favor, say aye.
For the rest
Antonio, thank you.